Welcome to the history of El Retiro Park. The park is full of lots of history, but this video will only focus on a few main historical points of the park. El Retiro originally belonged to the Spanish monarchy before it became a public park in the 19th century. The story begins with Count Duke of Olivares donating a part of his land to King Philip IV for recreational use in 1630. Olivares wanted to build a villa superior to the other villas that he'd seen to please the king. Several buildings were erected in the 1630s, but 10 years later, Olivares commissioned the park by garden designer Cosimo Lotti to design the park. In the past, the park hosted many plays, operas, and even bullfights for the Spanish elite, but back then, the park was only for the king and his royals. During the 18th century, the monarch commissioned a reform of El Retiro in order to convert it to a French royal site. Robert de Cotte designed the parterre, a beautiful garden with ponds, fountain, and unique flora. During the mid-19th century, the parterre was in a state of deterioration. Francisco Viet, a senior gardener in Campo de Moro Gardens, directed the reform, and under him, the basic layout did not change. Once again, the parterre was remodeled after the Civil War under the direction of Hilario Palacios. The parterre is accessed through Puerta de Felipe IV, and the door was originally erected in 1690 for an entryway between Hieronymus Monastery and Retiro Museum, but in 1922, it was transferred to El Retiro. Though the parterre has been through several changes throughout its history, it has been the site of several events, such as in 1792 when Captain Vicente Lunardi rode a hot air balloon over Madrid from the parterre. Paseo de la Rientia, or the Walkway of Statues, is a walkway in El Retiro that features 94 statues of the kings of Spain. In the 18th century, King Fernando VI commissioned the sculptures to be created by several sculptors. Originally, the sculptures were created for the royal palace, but Queen Isabel de Farnesio had nightmares about the statues. Following the road to statue leads to one of the most famous sites of the park, Estanque Grande de Retiro, or the Big Pond. The artificial lake was constructed between 1634 and 1636 by the architect Cristobal de Aguilera. The lake was used to host water shows, simulations of naval combats known as namaques, and boat rides for the Spanish royals. Plays and operas were also performed in the middle of the lake on the man-made island. Outside of its superficial functions, the pond was constructed as a large water reserve for the palace and its gardens. On the island, in 1922, the monument of Alfonso XII, the King of Spain between 1874 and 1885, was erected. In 1902, architect José Gracias Riera designed the statue, which features a grand colonnade along the pond and a bronze statue of King Alfonso XII atop a horse. Over 20 sculptors worked on the sculpture, and the statue was eventually completed in 1922. On the monument, the words La Paz, meaning peace, La Libertad, meaning freedom, and El Progreso, meaning progress, can be found. There are also sculptures to represent the Navy, the Army, sciences, agriculture, arts, and industry. Estanque de las Campanillas, Pond of Ochivado, or the Pond of the Bells, is a landscape element completed in the first half of the 17th century. It and the Big Pond are the only two water infrastructures that remain from the original gardens. Originally, it was meant to be used as an irrigation system, but eventually it became a recreational piece. The island that is in the center of the pond was originally a turret which could be accessed by bridge. During the 19th century, the turret was replaced with Chino's temple that had bells hanging from it, hence why it is called the Pond of Bells, but the bells disappeared a long time ago. Eventually, due to the tornado of 1886, the temple was replaced with a grotto, which is what we see here today. True or false, El Retiro has a statue of the devil. Well, the answer could be either true or false depending on how you interpret it. In 1878, Ricardo Bolivar sculpted a statue of the fallen angel Lucifer being expelled from paradise. Surrounding the fountain are gargoyles sculpted from bronze. The statue also happens to stand at 666 meters above sea level. Pavilion of Gardens of Cecilia Rodriguez is a beautiful botanical garden designed by the official park gardener of Madrid, Cecilia Rodriguez, in the 20th century. Perhaps the most well-known feature of the garden are its peacocks, but how did they get there? In 1774, King Carlos III ordered the construction of the House of Beast, a zoo featuring lions, tigers, bears, and hundreds of other animals. Different species of animals would fight each other for the entertainment of spectators. The peacocks roaming the garden freely are reminiscent of the House of Beast, which closed in 1972. The zoo has since been converted to a garden and library, but along the space you can see the cages and pits the animals resided in centuries ago. La Rosaleda, or the Rose Garden, was designed by Cecilia Rodriguez in 1915. The garden was created because the mayor of Madrid at the time, Carlos Prats, wanted a more elegant look for the park. The original Rose Garden was destroyed during the Spanish Civil War, but it was rebuilt in 1941. Rodriguez found inspiration from La Roserie de Bagatelle garden in Paris and wanted to create an elaborate rose garden found in other European cities. He brought back the first roses from his original Paris excursion, and now the garden features more than 4,000 roses. I hope you enjoyed learning about the history of El Retiro Park. Be sure to check out the other sections of our website to see more on El Retiro.